Hi everyone, welcome to Difference Frames the World, a channel to see the world differently. Please subscribe to our channel and turn on the notification so you will not miss our videos uploaded multiple times every week. In the previous video titled Why is China Not Afraid of the US, we promised to delve deeper into the complex dynamics of the US-China relationship. Specifically, we aim to explore why the US perceives China as its biggest imaginary enemy, and here it comes. Today's video starts with a recent Gallup poll on March 11, 2024, which shows only 1/3 of Americans are satisfied with America's global position. In 2020, the number was 65%. The result of the poll is in correlation with Joe Biden's job approval rate, 38%, according to another Gallup poll in February 2024. Joe Biden, like any other president, has his strengths and weaknesses, and it's important to objectively analyze his performance. Despite his physical and mental health, he is still running for re-election in 2024 for another term. If he succeeds, he may replace Charles Chaplin, a silent film comic actor, becoming America's legendary figure. Donald Trump, his rival in the 2024 election, is already a well-known figure. He has been vocal about his concerns regarding China since 2020. He frequently mentions China in his speeches, highlighting his stance on the US-China relationship. Both boxers in the arena are in their late 70s or early 80s, but the country cannot find young candidates to replace them in the match. Most of the Congress members are not young, either. Pew Research Center published an article in January 2023 disclosing the average age of House and Senate lawmakers in the 118th Congress. The median age of House representatives was 58, and that of senators was 66. Most lawmakers in the U.S. experienced the Cold War between the U.S. and the former Soviet Union. They are so desperate and afraid of Russia taking over Europe that they take great pains to corner Russia with NATO's eastward expansion after the collapse of the USSR in the early 1990s. China's rapid rise back to its historic glory is a significant development, and it's important to understand its implications. At the same time, it's crucial to acknowledge that the U.S., despite its challenges, still holds considerable global influence. We have heard so often that America is in decline that we forget who first raised the issue. However, it has become a consensus across the world. Even the head of North Korea, the world's most successful person born in the 1980s, dares to challenge the United States, and the Houthis are even more daring in the Red Sea. Some people even claim the US is a paper tiger, having not won a war by itself after the Second World War, and can only celebrate its victories in Hollywood. The statement is not 100% correct. The US successfully invaded Grenada in 1983, and its Operation Urgent Fury was a rare victory over the tiny island nation, which had a population of 110,000. Although the US has few military victories to brag about, it has outcompete for rivals economically. However, its economic competition with China, which spans various sectors such as technology, trade, and finance, is a significant aspect of the US-China relationship, and both countries are suffering. Let's take a moment to reflect on history. After World War II, the US emerged as the world's superpower, overtaking Britain and making it a vassal state. The US dollar replaced the pound sterling, becoming the world's dominant currency. This historical context is crucial to understanding the current global political and economic landscape. The abrupt appreciation of the Japanese yen in the 1980s paralyzed Japan, and Japan lost 40 years of economic growth. In 2023, its nominal GDP calculated in US dollars was lower than in 1995. In the early 1990s, the former Soviet Union collapsed, making the US the winner of the Cold War. The European Union is the fourth one challenging America's hegemony with its euro. The US launched 2 wars in Kosovo and Iraq to ruin the euro's creditability. As a result, the euro became a regional currency used mainly by European Union members. After the war broke out in Ukraine, the European countries joined the United States in sanctioning Russia and supporting Ukraine. They had to buy excessively priced liquefied natural gas from the US and refined Russian oil from India, adversely affecting their economies. In early 2022, the euro settled 37% of the world's transactions, only 1% less than the US dollar as the second settlement currency worldwide. 2 years passed, and the euro is still the second, but the transactions settled in the euro accounted for merely 20%, and the US dollar settled half of the world's total. Without Russia's low-cost energies and the euro as a dominant currency worldwide, the European Union can hardly compete with the United States in the coming years. Take Germany as an example. It has been striving to maintain a balanced relationship with Russia, a major energy supplier. However, the conflict in Ukraine disrupted the pipelines connecting it to Russia, leading to a significant impact on its economy. The whole of Europe is in a poor situation. The European Commission says that economic expansion has generally stalled against declining household purchasing power, shrinking external demand, monetary tightening, and the partial withdrawal of fiscal support in 2023. Affected by this, the economic growth momentum of the European Union and the Eurozone in 2024 will be weaker than expected. Europe has become the biggest victim of the Ukraine war, while the US is the largest winner. The US dollar defeated the euro, and America's economy grew faster than Europe. The conflict in Ukraine has also affected the relationship between European countries and the United States. Many European countries have aligned themselves with the US, both militarily and economically, in response to the crisis. It is also worth mentioning that America's military aid to Ukraine is not free. Instead, the Ukrainians are putting their national resources under America's control as collaterals. Moreover, most of the military aid paid to the U.S. military-industrial complex for American weaponry, and a large portion of the aid package still stays inside the United States. The European countries are, however, suffering. They need political and economic independence from America, but their politicians are forced to side with the U.S. for fear that Russia will attack them after Ukraine. The United States has defeated Britain, Japan, the USSR, and the European Union, and maintained its world hegemony in the past 100 years. Still, it may lose its dominance in 10 or 20 years to the fifth challenger. China is the fifth challenger the U.S. wants to defeat or outcompete. In the past 10 years, particularly after Donald Trump became the president, the United States has resorted to all means except direct military confrontations to stop China's rise, including trade and tech wars. Still, China is so resilient that it is not easy for the U.S. to defeat it. Henry Kissinger, who died at 100 in November 2023, believed the U.S. could not contain China, as it dealt with the other four challengers. Instead, he was worried that China would eventually beat the U.S. Many people compare today's China with the former Soviet Union, and no one can deny that China is more formidable than the latter. As the world's most extensive consumer goods and industrial supply market, China is the focal point for multinational enterprises, including U.S. companies. U.S. Secretary of Treasury Janet Yellen has visited China twice in the past 9 months, and Antony Blinken, chief of the U.S. State Department, has also been there twice within a year. They cannot achieve any achievements without China's cooperation. For the United States, China is a partner, a competitor, and an imaginary enemy. As an emerging world power, China does not seek global dominance. Still, the United States understands China's quick rise differently. It believes China is a tiger at large and does not care whether the tiger will attack people. They believe China threatens America's hegemony. When the U.S. becomes the world's number 2, its hegemony will be gone with the wind, which U.S. lawmakers fear the most. Nowadays, no one cares what British politicians think and do, and many people can hardly remember the current British Prime Minister's name. The former British Prime Minister's stylish and messy hair was more impressive than that country's position. Since Great Britain was overtaken by the U.S. and became Little Britain, London has lost its world centre position to New York. The British pound sterling has also become a regional currency, surpassed by the US dollar's global dominance. Today's America is declining, but the area of the United States is about 40 times Britain's, so it will not become another UK. Even after China overtakes it someday, militarily, economically, and technologically, the US will still be a superpower with global influence. Even so, the US will not allow itself to become the world's number 2 after China, and will resort to all means possible to stop China's rise. However, the majority of the world's economic activities have been shifted to the Asia-Pacific region. At the same time, developed countries like Europe and the United States have retained only a portion of their industries and proprietary technologies with the highest added value. As mentioned in previous videos, China's shipbuilding industry is 230 times America's, and the Chinese Navy has already become the world's number when measured by the number of surface ships. China is the only country worldwide with complete industrial sectors and a full supply chain. It is very difficult for the United States to maintain its present hegemony even if China does not challenge its global dominance. The US has often argued that its victory in the Cold War with the former Soviet Union could prove the US system and culture are the optimal solution for the development of human civilization, and most Americans are taught to believe that the United States of America should be the world's number one forever. For decades, Americans have been educated to be proud of their so-called freedom, democracy, and human rights, and China has been pictured as an authoritarian country with no freedom and democracy. If an authoritarian China can outcompete the US without following America's rules, it means any country can succeed and prosper without accepting America's values. China's success will smash Americans' psychological superiority into pieces, and other countries will no longer follow Washington's rules-based international order. The dollar hegemony will collapse, and the US cannot harvest the world with its free money printed out of thin air. We often say the US dollar is the foundation of America's global dominance, without which Washington's hegemony is a mirage. The US military keeps flexing its muscles at China's doorstep, which demonstrates its fear and despair. It is like a dog barking at night, while a barking dog never bites.